Hello everyone and welcome to the LSI F1.5 EU Championship. We're here today for what is actually round one of this season. We missed last time around in Italy. That was probably going to be rescheduled to later on in the season. So this is actually the first round. It's incorrectly marked there on the live stream. So welcome to the new season. We do have a few reserve and high tier drivers with us right now, but we are finally underway and that is more important than anything. We do have Frantic and Simaxon both being crossover drivers for the F1 and F1.5 tiers. Of course, we've got Heischler, Pursoon, Zingy all as high tier drivers, but then we do have Terence, Jericho, Icarus all as permanent drivers, with Fauzi being a reserve. For the first time in LSI, they join the grid. Frantic going through the right-hander of turn 3, keeping it nice and tight to the right, making it a purple first sector. And being pretty smooth on the exit, they do drag it to the left, which will help them with traction over track distance. Both are pretty quick. Simaxon goes and sets a 12.7 ahead of Jericho Willis. And up the hill, Frantic has a few little difficult parts on the steering. The inputs were a little bit rough, but they keep it together for the moment and they'll be absolutely fine. Purple middle sector now for them, looking to try and take a provisional pole as we stay with the man that we started the live stream with. Up to the final two corners it will be. Stay away from the bump if you can. Be careful, no one was affected by it yesterday. And now the final corner, DRS wide open across the line, and that will be 11.8 right there. And they are 9/10 ahead of Simaxon right now, so lots of cars have got some work to do. They've got to try and bleed themselves into the session a little bit, and then we'll see how it goes for the rest of the qualifying session. 11 minutes on the clock. As we just double check, that is a yellow flag for Zingy, who is disqualifying themselves and making sure they start the back. They went out on track to make sure their setup, of course, is applied, and they should be good. Jericho Willis already on another outlap to set their second qualifying run to try and improve a little bit further. We've got Icarus, who did set their lap a few moments ago on that medium tyre, but obviously the medium isn't going to be as fast as that soft tyre. The Williams will be starting once again, ready to go round. We've got Fauzi though. He is actually going to be finishing their lap first. We've actually got a Red Bull just in front, so that is Icarus making their way around again on this medium tyre. Fauzi, the Austrian driver in the Ferrari car, goes across the line, and it's going to be a P2, a 12.5. As they go 2/10 ahead of Simaxon. Zingy's car is out of this session, and it should all be pretty straightforward. They will be starting at the back of the pack. We've got Terence coming around the final few corners. I don't believe they will be affected by that AI car that is just parked up on the track right there. They'll be absolutely fine, and there is Terence going across the line to start their lap right now. We'll go back to Jericho though as they go up the hill. They've got the McLaren higher tier driver of Heischler just up in front of them. They won't be worried about any traffic. They don't have any battery, however, so they've pushed very, very hard on the deployment already, trying to gain everything they possibly can. Now to the final two corners. Be careful that they don't ride over the bump too hard, and they make sure they do so very nicely, holding it in 6th gear, flat out, DRS, and across the line for the Williams driver. And it's going to be an improvement by just under 1.5 tenths, but it won't be enough to get Simaxon in the end. That is a very close margin between the two drivers. Simaxon in the Red Bull already out on track once again to see what they can do right here. Terence, of course, we saw them go through this final sector a few moments ago. We see it once again to see what the former race winner can do around this circuit. They haven't won around this circuit, they won around the Belgian Grand Prix, but Terence still got a race win on his name right now, DRS, and they're going to cross the line to make it a P5 for now, 12.8. Now, you've not got too much to get to Jericho, so that means P3 to P5 are incredibly close with one another at the moment, and it could be all to play for as we go to the final stages of the qualifying session, and lots of drivers will be looking for their final laps of the session, of course. Icarus will be going to get that soft tyre on, that fresh soft tyre, which will be good to see. We actually have had Fauzi go for a second lap on their tyres right now, going purple in that middle sector, trying to push one more time. They want to make sure they make use of these scrub tyres so they can use a little bit more later on, I assume. That could be possible. The Ferrari ran the final few corners, DRS across the line. What's it going to be? And it is going to be an improvement again, a 0.3 right there. So they've now got 5 tenths to try and find about, where is that, 2.5 tenths to try and find to Frantic. So they are really closing in the gap right now, and it's looking pretty good. Simaxon will be up next to try and set this lap. Or is it? No, Terence is on his way into the pit lane. I would assume it's going to be Simaxon to set their lap next. Purple middle sector right now from the Red Bull. A 0.7 is their lap time. They do need 4 tenths to try and catch up to the car ahead, and even more if they want to catch up, of course, to Frantic, the pole sitter. But looking pretty good in that middle sector for the moment. DRS across the line, and it's going to be a 0.368. Incredibly close there to the Ferrari driver, and people are really starting to close up. Fauzi's going to be on their way in back into the pit lane and looking to set their final run of the session. Frantic just waiting for the perfect opportunity to come back out onto the circuit themselves. Icarus is going to be starting their first soft tyre run lap. Just warming up those tyres, making sure that they give us some nice weaves to get that temperature in all sides of the car. The right side really struggles for temperature around this circuit. The left side gets an absolute hammering, and you've got to try and make sure that you warm it up before you start your lap, because by the time you get to turn 1, the tyres just cool down massively, and if you don't really work the tyres in very well, then you are going to have a big bit of understeer as you head towards the first corner, getting very close to track limits as they go down the straight into the first corner, braking just before the 50 and up the hill in 4th gear, hold it to the right, and they are going to ride that curb and then slowly drag out to the middle of the circuit, not fully left, braking around about the 50-meter board just before or after, depending on how you're going to take the corner. It's a dynamic one for sure, braking just before the 50-meter down the hill. Very easy to lock up. They don't go a little bit wide from the apex, but they focus on the better exit, which is good. And up the hill they go. Very tricky on the bouncy curbs. They manage to navigate them nicely. DRS as they go through turn 9 on the exit. It will be wide open and into the hairpin. A very heavy braking zone just after the 100-meter board. Avoiding the sausage curbs on the inside, trying to get the car a bit opened up on the steering and then turn it back across to minimize that track distance. Final 2 corners to go, keeping away from the bump on the outside line and into the final corner. 7th gear, holding the 7th gear with the ERS on, the DRS on. They've gone on the grass and lost a bit of time. They improved massively, but I reckon that little grass bit would have cost them quite a bit. And they'll be able to go again and see if they can maybe push up a little bit further. Bassoon and Heisler, of course, higher tier drivers, so they won't be making a difference to this grid, and Heisler just putting more and more laps in on this tyre to get some good running, but of course invalidating them so they don't count. That's just to explain the situation for that man there. We've got Frantic going once again to see if they can have a look at securing their provisional pole. Simaxon is going around the final few corners on another tyre. They've actually gone yellow in that final corner, so maybe crashing into the pit lane. It looks like the Williams of Jericho Willis crosses the line as well to start their next run, but Frantic is slowing down, and he's gonna start his final run a little bit later as expected. Heisler's gonna disqualify their car. They are likely to end up behind Zingy in the end, so Zingy maybe retiring or disqualifying a little bit too early, but we will go on board with the Williams, who's actually invalidated their lap and won't be able to go on this time around. They're going to have to save some battery and then have another go, but that being said, they've actually used all of their batteries, so they must have invalidated fairly recently for that to be the situation. They have time to kind of use in this session, of course, so they shouldn't need to worry too much. That is the Red Bull with a bit of a front wing loss on their way back to the pit lane, but they will be able to go out once again. 3 minutes on the clock. It's a fairly short lap around Catalonia, and you will get plenty of opportunities to go in and out of the pit lane in a session like this. Frantic goes through into the third sector. We head now. Let's see what it is on the delta time as they go into the hairpin. It's a 5 second down as they're just going again. Not happy with the start of the lap, I assume. It does mean that those tyres are now looking a little bit older, and it's going to be a little bit harder to set a faster lap. Terence is the only other car right now out on circuit. Everyone else is in the pit lane. Now, it does mean that they get a free opportunity, a clean opportunity to use the session, of course, to their advantage. We will see a Red Bull on their way out, whether that be Icarus or Simaxon. They've still got plenty of time to get out of the pit lane. All the drivers right now, the Ferraris on their way as well. And we'll find out who those guys are in a bit. Fauzi, of course, being in the Ferrari car, that is going to be Simaxon, the first Red Bull driver out of the pit lane. It's going to be a purple first sector there for Frantic as they continue to try and charge their way to pole position. Just defend what they've currently got. The margin's smaller than it was than ever for sure. Up the hill, very, very quick looking through there. Just looking from the rearward camera, riding the inside through turn 9 to minimise track distance and get a bit of rotation, which is quite hard to manage, but if you can get it right, you'll be good to go. Opening the steering nicely, feeding in the throttle and opening the steering, up the hill. And the final 2 corners once again, bit of a roller coaster ride downhill and just holding it flat to the right hand side. Will they go to 6th? They hold it in 7th as well, as many drivers do. And that is going to be an improvement by just over 0.2 of a second. Fauzi currently the next one, or I say the next one in line, the closest in line to try and beat that lap time. But we will actually see it's Terence who will be going to set the next lap time, and it will be their final lap of the session if they want to try and improve. A big moment there on the exit of turn 5. They get themselves together and they go through the S section, looking pretty good over that curb actually. Through turn 9, let's see how they take that. They don't go for the inside curb, but as they go towards the hairpin, braking heavily on the exit. Will it be smooth? Oh, there's a big snap of oversteer, and unfortunately that will be Terence's lap possibly done. They've got a bit of battery they can save. Not much time in the session, however. We'll go on board with, that'll be Simaxon, I think, is going to be next to set their lap in the session, and we'll see what the Polish driver can do. They raced here yesterday. They've got a Grand Prix experience under their belt already. They attempted the fastest lap towards the end. I think Peanuts took it away from them. However, they go again this evening on Saturday. They're down by 0.5 at the moment. They don't need to find too much more to get that back to a pretty much 0 delta, and they can improve on top of that. They don't need much. They've got a few more corners to go. Will it be enough for Simaxon to improve ahead of Fauzi? It will not, unfortunately. It will be. It will be, actually. A 0.247. A brilliant job. The Ferrari will invalidate and will not be able to beat the Red Bull to the line in qualifying. Jericho in P4 at the moment. We've got Icarus who's actually going to be crossing the line before the Williams driver will do. That's going to be a P. It will be a P6, unfortunately, not able to improve on that final run. Terence, of course, finishing their qualifying, so it is going to be up to the Williams now to finish off this session. What will it be for Jericho Willis in their first race for F1.5? Across the line, and it's not going to be an improvement, unfortunately, but a very, very good effort. That'll be a P4, and it's still the second row on the grid. That was a very interesting qualifying right there. I thought Simaxon had a few issues and wasn't able to improve, but in that final sector just found so much time in the car in the last few corners as well. Must have been on the hairpin, I assume. That's where it all would have been. And it was enough to get themselves that front row, sharing it with Frantic, who did a very good job to be strong and up front pretty much since they set a first lap. Of course, 3 lap old soft tyres, so really making the most of what tyre they ran on. But now, they're going to have to look towards the race. I don't know how the tyre situation will be looking for that one, of course. Alright, just trying to look at any possible issues, but I think we're good to go. No technical difficulties so far. I say so far because you never know with this stuff. Frantic takes pole position, Simaxson in P2, then we got Fauzi in P3, Jericho, Willis, Terrence, Akaris, and then Pursoon, Zingy, and Heischler all being the higher tier drivers. We go through the race director just in case, and then we'll see you in a bit for the race. Ready? Hold. Go! Who's going to get it into turn one? That's a jump start from the higher tier driver of Pursoon, unfortunately. And they will lead the way into the first corner. There's already damage from someone. It looks like it might be Zingy. Frantic to P2 and Fauzi fighting with Simaxson off the line. As Simaxson just about holds on to that position in P4 and does a very good job. Jericho Willis sitting right behind watching this happen but not able to get anything right now. It's going to be Terrence and Heischler switching positions already as Heisch looks to try and make moves as early as he can and cause as little as problems as possible. That is Zingy with damage, and also Akaris unfortunately having damage off the start, so I don't know what happened between those guys, but it wasn't even before the first corner where there was already a front wing flying off the car. Zingy wasn't happy with that one, but also who's not happy is Frantic, who was leading the way, and they've got a jump start car right in front of them who is going to be slightly frustrating, of course, a bit of a distraction, but Frantic leads the way effectively when Pursoon will go into the pit lane, and then we've got Simaxson sitting in P3 with that Ferrari looking very quick. That is Pursoon going into the pit lane after all. We're going to have a quick look at see what the tyre situation will be for everyone. Frantic goes and sets the fastest lap as they lead the way when Pursoon went for that pit stop. Will we get a switch up between anybody? It doesn't look like it. Only a switch up here with Heischler and Jericho Willis, as Heischler tries to be the lead higher tier driver to go through the order and try and improve. Frantic 7/10 ahead at the moment. DRS could be available for Simaxson if they can just keep it together, and these top three have worked pretty well so far, getting a 1, 2, 3 in qualifying in the order that they're in. Obviously it changed up a little bit for a moment, but now it's back to what it was. Zingy and Akaris go into the pit lane to get new front wings and new tyres. It's a medium for Zingy, it's a hard for Akaris, and that does mean that Zingy is on the same strategy as the race leaders. So actually, no, the same strategy for Akaris right now, because he's had to go onto the hard tyre already. So that's what these guys will probably be doing in the top three. Heischler going for hards to medium, looking to do that later on. Got a lot of pace in that car and using it quite nicely at the moment. Frantic leads the way. DRS was available for Simaxson just a few moments ago, and it will be once again available right now. Heischler not able to hold on with this tyre, of course, to the cars ahead. They're just going to have to wait a little bit longer until they have the pace to be able to catch up to DRS with a DRS train up in front of them, of course. But Jericho Willis is getting dragged along a little bit by Heischler, which is great to see because they have a brilliant opportunity to do well here, and they can just see the race leaders right in front of them already, which is good to see, of course. Terrence unfortunately not getting the best start. That is a 5-second gap that they currently have, but they are on a hard tyre after all, so they can definitely come back a little bit later and see what is going to help them out in the race. Soon, obviously, having that drive-through penalty, still comes out ahead of Zingy, who's had a front wing change and a pit stop. So, same for Akaris as well. Frantic, however, has had a pretty good start, been able to hold the lead and not needed to worry about anybody overtaking on the DRS. So they are good to go. DRS once again kicks on for the Red Bull driver, but I don't think anything will happen right here. No changes in position for now. Simaxon is nice and close, however. It is a Haas, Red Bull, Ferrari 1, 2, 3. And unfortunately, it looks like Yoko has lost DRS to Heischler. Heischler dropping back a little bit from the lead pack, of course, as it would be understandable to do so with the tyre situation. But Yoko is very close to the back of Heischler, but just not quite close enough, unfortunately. That is only going for fastest lap as they try and put the laps in this early on to see if they can make a bit of a comeback. 15.8 seconds to Pursoon ahead, who is 5 seconds behind Terence at this stage of the Grand Prix. Of course, Terence being on that other tyre. Pursoon jumping the start, but it does mean that they are still on the same tyres they started, so they do have to go for pit stop as well. If we look at the gap between them and the leader, they've actually lost 17 seconds overall from Frantic, of course, so that's what it costs you to jump the start of a race effectively. Alrighty, as we settle into it a little bit more. The Austrian driver, reserve driver today, so they do have 2 cars ahead of them that are, of course, permanent drivers. That being said, Frantic and Simaxon are both crossover drivers, currently being evaluated whether they will be racing in F1 or F1.5. So, you know, the top 3, as expected, doing a very good job. DRS for Fauzi, as they are going to be very happy to have that, as they had a big moment through turn 9 and also a bit of understeer through turn 10. But other than that, they're good to go and they can catch up nicely. Frantic is a little bit far away, 8 tenths from Simaxon. Simaxon's got to make sure that they keep it steady, losing the car a little bit. It might be time for a move from the Ferrari driver. I think they will be looking to go for it, but ERS is being used by the Red Bull. They don't want to let it go. It's actually not being used by the Red Bull, and it's only a 7-tenth gap, so we might see Frantic possibly hold on here. That is a lack of ERS right now from the Polish driver, who tried to hold on the best they could. Will it be enough for the rest of this lap to stay within DRS? And whether they stay within DRS or not, are they able to save enough battery to be able to defend once again to the raging Ferrari that is right behind them? I should have said the prancing Ferrari, not the raging Ferrari. As I confuse myself in the opposite way. This time, Fauzi doesn't make it an opposite steering lock right there through the fast right-hander. When I say that, I mean it was more of just a slight correction they had on the last lap. This time around it's a bit different. 7-8 tenths again, Frantic has to the leader. A bit of a mistake on the curb right there from Fauzi, but still very close to the back of the Red Bull. DRS will be available to the Red Bull driver, who goes off the circuit, understeers, is once again going to get another not ideal run, but they saved a lot of battery. It doesn't matter, Fauzi's still going to have a go. They wanted to go for it last time. They're going to take a second invitation, but they actually back off in the end, as Simaxon is thinking, you know what, I've got the job done, I've managed to hold on, and actually I've managed to catch back up to Frantic even more than ever. So they saved a lot of battery in the latter stage of the lap, and was able then to hold on, of course, again. Frantic right now, not really looking too clean on the ERS, but they've still got a bit. If they were in trouble, of course, they could use what they needed. But they're just maintaining the pace quite nicely, not making it easy for the 2 cars behind to keep up. So keeping the pressure on, as I say, not making it easy. Simaxon goes into the wall. Oh no, what a shame. It's going to be a virtual safety car deployed, as that was an interesting rejoin. They've got to be careful with that one. Jericho Willis will get the position, but I think they're going to have to give the position up because of the illegal overtake potentially. So that is once again the Polish driver back up ahead. If they're lucky, the virtual safety car will stay out for a little bit longer and they'll be able to go into the pit lane and benefit from that. But I don't know if we will see anybody have that situation. I'm surprised we didn't see a dip into the pit lane from the top two with this virtual safety car, because they're obviously at the pit lane entry when it was there. That is Simaxon missing the pit lane entry, and they don't go for a fresh set of tyres. They've got damage on that car. It is a virtual safety car. It's not a full safety car, so it's not like they've overtaken the safety car and will go for an extra lap. Unfortunately, Simaxon will be losing big time, and Jericho Willis will be overtaking in a matter of time compared to a car that has no front wing. Unless there is a graphical bug that we can't see, and there maybe is an actual full safety car, as Frantic is just keeping the delta. It's going to be, unfortunately, Jericho Willis getting a drive-through penalty, so both 4 and 5 positions are having a bit of a terrible day right now. A drive-through penalty for the Williams driver and no front wing for the Red Bull driver. Terence will be gaining 2 free positions very, very soon and promoting themselves to P4. On the hard tyre as well, they're looking to be going quick later on, and they're definitely going to be wanting to get onto that medium tyre as soon as they possibly can, but not too soon. You've got to be careful on the mediums because they can drop off pretty hard if they're not careful. After that restart, Fauzi not able to quite reach the level of Frantic reacting to the restart, but the pace might be there, and they're pushing quite hard to try and get that position, or get the ability to go back in DRS. They are incredibly close. Jericho Willis doesn't go into the pit lane. They let Simaxon go through, and they're going to go for serving their drive-through penalty a little bit later on, which is actually very smart. You don't want a car ahead of you as you go into the pit lane, so it's going to be a lot faster if they just stay out and have another go in a little while to try and not speed into the pit lane, but go as fast into the pit lane as they possibly can and lose minimal time compared to what they will have already lost once serving that penalty. The top 2 lead the way, and Fauzi's managed to get DRS again. I say that they might have just lost it as they go for the S section. We'll see if their wing opens up. It doesn't. They've got a couple more corners to try and push here and see if they can get within that range, that 1 second, that sweet 1 second range that they need to find. The tyres are going to start to die. They'll reach that 30% wear point and they will get very slippy. You can see they're tiptoeing around the circuit at the moment. Frantic finds the pace in those final few corners and is looking pretty good. Heischler, 3.496 seconds. Let's watch and see if that hard tyre can start bringing up the pace and closing in. If they already haven't, I don't know. 3.3 seconds down the straight. They'll be pushing a little bit. Fauzi also going to be pushing to try and catch up to Frantic, but Frantic is absolutely rapid right now at this stage. Pursuit goes ahead, as that is Jericho Willis, of course, serving their drive-through penalty. Unfortunately, they will be on the same tyre. It's going to be pretty frustrating for them. Zingy is going to be coming down the back straight, but won't be able to take any advantage from the position. But they are slowly putting the laps in, seeing if they can do something about it. That is going to be Simaxon into the pit lane for the second time in the second lap. I don't think the game repaired their front wing. They're going to stay in the race. They're going to put a fresh set of softs on, and they're going to assume maybe go for a fastest lap and hope for a safety car. Lap 10 out of 33, still got a long way in this Grand Prix to go. Frantic now leads the way and is extending the DRS range, or the gap to the car behind. So DRS range isn't available for the Ferrari. We've got Heischler, who is catching up quite a nice margin right now. We'll look at the gap between themselves and the race leader. That hasn't changed a massive amount, so now not in that DRS zone. Fauzi just having a few issues, really trying to push, and I think they've just exhausted the battery, exhausted the car to try and get there, and now they're having to recover. That's why Heischler is catching up at such a critical rate. Pursuit on that medium tyre, pushing as hard as they possibly can. They're ahead of Terence. Terence is in P5 at the moment, but net P3 according to the current tier drivers, of course. High tier drivers being Heischler, Pursuit, and Zingy. So Frantic leads the way for the F1.5 Championship. Then we've got Fauzi in P2, followed by Terence, Jericho Willis, Icarus, and Simaxon currently at the back of the pack but they can still be in this race, and hopefully they get another opportunity to be up the front, as they were, of course, earlier on before they had those issues through this corner right here, pushing very, very hard, crashing on the left-hand side. And I will say, I've done it before myself. Unfortunately, I wasn't so lucky, and it did end my race pretty quickly. It was on the first lap when I remember me doing that race, and I hate to remember it, but it happened, and there's nothing you can do. You just have to try and push on, and that's what he's doing, staying in the race and putting the laps in. I'm on board with Terence, however, who is just plodding along right now, waiting for the tyre advantage to really come their way. And it is starting to do so. As we will have a look at the gap to the leader once again. Heischler has managed to bring 5/10 to Frantic, so you can really see that that hard tyre is definitely nice and quick at this stage of the race. So that will be brilliant for Terence to see, as they can know that they can start improving a little bit. Zingy makes the move on Jericho Willis, who had to go for that drive-through penalty, unfortunately. Still sits in P7. That's P4 for the higher tier driver, or for the current tier driver, sorry. So it would be good points regardless to their championship. Now Frantic is doing everything they need to, and Heischler now, well, they got DRS range off of the Ferrari. The Ferrari immediately takes it to the pit lane. It will give DRS to the McLaren driver just for a moment, but going for that undercut is the Ferrari car, and we'll see how that goes for Frantic. Will it be enough? This is going to be a bit of a race to the exit of the pit lane, and also will it be Frantic reacting to go into the pit lane as well? They're going to start using energy. They are using energy, so they do want to pit. That's a typical sign for a car looking to try and go for immediate reaction and pit. They're not going for the overcut at this stage of the Grand Prix. Heischler, Pursoon, Terence all going to be ahead right now. That's Zingy into the pit lane, so Fauzi is going to be clear on their own. I thought that maybe Zingy would have been very close to them on pit exit, but no, making that call fairly not early, but they... Oh no, and that's a big mistake there for the Ferrari driver as they go through turn 4. That was incredibly close. They do have a front wing, luckily, and they're going to be counting their lucky stars, because that was almost the end of their entire race. Fastest lap for Samaxon, but a fast way to the wall right there was Fauzi until they managed to correct it. Frantic goes into the pit lane. If they knew that had happened, maybe they would have waited a little bit longer, but no, they go into the pit lane anyway, as you'd expect them to. They react to the car behind that they wouldn't actually need to react to anymore, since they've lost that much time. It was a big old spin. Of course they saved it, but it's still going to cost you a huge chunk of time right now. Terence is going to come out side by side, it looks like, with Frantic, so this could be interesting. It's not quite side by side. Frantic will be ahead. There are going to be some warm tyres on that Aston Martin, but those really fresh, hard tyres are going to be incredibly quick for Frantic. Got a couple corners to try and warm them up, but once that's done, compared to a old hard tyre, they're going to be absolutely fine. 13 lap old hard tyres at the moment. This is the tyre that Terence started the Grand Prix on. Fauzi is going to be frustrated with themselves right there. They're now 5 seconds behind Frantic. They were around about 2 seconds, so losing 3 seconds on that half spin effectively. Maybe even gaining a little bit on that initial phase of the lap, of course, as they were probably pushing quite hard into the first couple of corners. So maybe even more, but yeah, losing 3 seconds from that spin, that half spin. It could be worse, of course. They haven't got a drive-through penalty or damage, so they've managed to keep it somewhat clean, and it is a very good reaction time to keep that one out the wall for sure. Very good craft to be able to slam the brakes on when they needed to. It does take skill to do so. We've got Terence sitting behind Frantic, not within DRS, but plonked in the middle of the top two earlier on the net P1 and P2 drivers for the higher tier, of course, or for the current tier, I should say. That is going to be Sir Maxon having another issue through turns 7 and 8. They go through 9. Their teammate does pass them in the meantime as well. I don't know if they've got any damage. Doesn't look like they've got damage this time, so it was more of just a spin, unfortunately. In the meantime, Heischler leads the way, Pursoon up to P2 as these guys haven't made a pit stop. Frantic will be catching as they are on their fresh tyres, of course. So whether that will be interesting sight to see, I don't quite know. I think probably other Pursoon will go for a pit before Frantic catches, or it's going to be a pretty straightforward move. Not only is Pursoon a higher tier driver, but they're on such a worn set of tyres right now. I am interested to see when Heischler will go into the pit lane. It's going to be within a couple of laps time, I would assume so. Pursoon does go into the pit lane as we speak about it, and will stay away from Frantic, getting very close to the pit lane entry. The F1.5 EU champion from a couple seasons ago, before that would be before Dave Raptors and Devon Young, so 3 seasons ago. That has gone by very quickly. In the F1.22 game, they got that championship. This is F1.24. It's still in 2024, however. I think they probably won their championship in 2023, early 2023. So they're not that old. They're not that old. They're all right. That is Joko Willis going into the pit lane. It will mean that Zingy can once again regain that position as they go for that undercut. 7.6 seconds behind Pursoon, who of course is on their kind of outlap at the moment. Zingy will be able to try and push and see if they can catch. But since that kind of first opening crash, they've really had a hard time. We saw Igor spin yesterday off the line. It wasn't so fortunate for them as they called it a DNF instead of a front wing loss. So if Igor had managed to make it through the lap and didn't crash right off the line, then if they did still have issues and a bit of damage, this is what their race might have looked like, of course. 7 seconds to the back of Pursoon at the moment, and they're going to try and see if they can push a little bit harder. The race winner from yesterday, we know that they're very quick. They didn't actually set a qualifying lap yesterday, however, in Spain, so we didn't get to see their outright pace. They also didn't set a lap time, of course, here because they are a higher tier driver, so they are not allowed to do so. So we won't ever see, well, we will see probably in the future, but right now we don't see a qualifying lap time from Zingy in this game. I don't think we ran here in the launch season, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, doesn't make a difference, doesn't matter. Zingy is on his way to try and improve, but right now the gap is being maintained more or less by Pursoon. I say that as soon as I say it, he catches up about a tenth, so looking to improve nicely. Heischler still leads the way as they come around the final few corners. They're going to be looking to maybe go into the pit lane now. No, they're still going to wait a little bit longer and see, would they try and risk it and go to a set of sauce? Would they try and have that bit of risk involved, or are they going to go for a more standard strategy, go for the medium tyre? I think if it will be the medium tyre, it will be, I don't know, it could be within the next 2 laps, but I'm going to expect more or less this lap is probably going to be the one they're going to look for. Next 2 laps could definitely be possible for that medium tyre. They currently don't have too much to worry about either. When they come out the pit lane, they should come out around about where Terence will be, so they will possibly have to fight, but Terence is going to be going into the pit lane at some point soon. Frantic breaks away from Terence. Fauzi not able to overtake Terence. They did have a bit more of a gap to try and catch up to the Aston Martin compared to what Frantic had to break away, but the gap has definitely extended in the meantime. Frantic making good progress on their rival from earlier on, who started the race in, that would have been P3, as Sir Maxon managed to out-qualify Fauzi right there. But making progress, just trying to keep it calm, and they will be catching to the back of the Aston Martin, the driver from Hong Kong, who is up very, very late at night or early in the morning, whatever you want to call the 3 o'clock schedule. Heading towards 4 now. DRS will be available right here for the Ferrari driver. Will that be a call for Terence to go into the pit lane? or is it going to be them staying out? It looks like they do continue out on track right now. Fauzi goes off the track, might have got themselves a warning. They're going to be pushing for the energy to go for a move here on the Aston Martin. The Aston just sits there. They're not willing to fight. They turn off the battery to let them know that they're going to just allow them to pass through, and Fauzi makes it a P3 and a P2 for the EU drivers for now. Heischler, of course, yet to pit. Brantic does catch up to the lead cars. You can see the difference in tyre wear is just absolutely monumental. But Terence lets that one go, and they will be also having to make their pit stop, of course, at some point. So when they go for their pit stop, they might come around about where they should come out ahead of Jericho, but Jericho is definitely going to be trying to make good progress right now on that undercut. That medium tyre will definitely be quick. That time penalty, unfortunately, will not be looking good there for the Williams driver. It is only a 3-second time penalty and nothing more for the time being, however. Alrighty, the gap more or less stays the same between Zingy and Pursoon, so both of these cars looking very similar. Obviously 3-lap fresher tyres for Pursoon doesn't really make a massive difference on the hard tyre. It shouldn't make a difference if you can manage your tyres well as well, but being on a controller compared to a wheel, Pursoon on a wheel, Zingy on a controller, it can have different effects on tyres. Of course, you can probably be a little bit more worn on the tyres if you are a controller player, as the inputs will be slightly more aggressive compared to that wheel user. That being said, of course, there are some very, very minor assists available for a controller automatically, so it does mean that it's all kind of evened out a little bit. That will be Simax on into the pit lane once again for another set of tyres. It will be a hard tyre, one that they've already ridden on, but it will be a fresh set more importantly, and they can definitely go to the end of the Grand Prix on this one right now. We've got Terence sitting in P4, not going into the pit lane. I assume they're probably just going to be following Heischler at this stage. I say that, they've immediately gone into the pit lane, very close to the pit lane exit or entry walls. They've managed to get that very nicely on the limit, and they do make that call. Will we see Heischler in the pit lane within the next couple of laps as well, or is Heischler going to try and push for the soft tyres? That will be straightforward mediums right there for Terence to go to the ends. They are going to be passed by Zingy, but that will be it. They're going to have a lot of clean air ahead of them, and they're going to see if they can try and catch up to the cars ahead again. But right now, they don't really need to worry. They are currently going to be sitting P3 for the current tier drivers. Looking for pit stops for Heischler, even though they are a higher tier driver. We don't really need to watch this too much. They currently are a decent way ahead of Pursoon, so that's why they're maybe extending to look to go for a set of soft tyres instead, 30 seconds away. So right now, they would come out close behind Fauzi. So are they really going to try and make that a soft tyre? It could work, but is it worth the risk? It's something that they're going to have to calculate. Going this late on into the race, Terence of course did it as well, so it might be that Heisch looks at this in a couple of laps time, but they've already passed the pit lane entry, so they will continue, and I think it might be a little bit of a different story. They're probably going to stay out on this tyre. We'll have a quick look to see what they are currently showing us, and they are very, very matte, these tyres. They don't have a graining mark in them, but they are very, very matte right now, so they don't look like they'd get a puncture just yet, but they do look like they would definitely struggle in the traction corners and the high downforce corners, importantly so as well. Don't really know if you get the blistering graphic as much as you used to compared to previous games. Previous games you'd kind of understand what was going on. You'd get a big line in the middle of the tyre and you'd be able to see if you're probably going to look at a puncture. Now it's not really so much. We look at the rear of the car, you can't really see much of a difference. It is simply just a matte looking tyre at the moment. So yeah, they will be good to go for another few laps, and I think they are pushing for a soft tyre at this stage because we've got 11 laps of this Grand Prix remaining, just under 11 laps. So they are looking to try and go a couple more laps, and then they will plonk on that set of soft tyres. Not too much longer, but they still got to do a few more if they really want to maximise and not have any problems on that tyre. Of course, they're going to automatically lose the position to Frantic, and they're going to lose the position to Fauzi. They might be able to re-overtake Fauzi. They'll stay ahead of Pursoon, but to get to Frantic and take the win overall would be incredibly difficult right here for Heischler. But they can give it a shot, and they can of course look for fastest lap if they do go for this later pit stop, which is the beauty of it, if you have the ability to do so. Now Zingy, they're going to be maybe looking to try and take that away. Of course, they're trying to catch up to Pursoon, but if it is a fastest lap right there from Heischler, then maybe he'll try and go for it instead. 10 lap old hard tyres, and nothing really to lose in this race. Everyone split up on track at the moment. It's all about Heischler, although it is a higher tier driver currently running right now. We are waiting to see what their tyre situation is looking like, and they continue to look just very matte. No puncture signs as of yet. That could change very, very soon as they're looking to try and lapse. That's not Sir Maxon, that is Akaris. So they have already lapsed the first Red Bull. Blue flags for the second Red Bull now. Quickly dispersed and then once again put back on. So Heischler's going to be looking to try and make that move as soon as they can, and then progress. Unless they go into the pit lane, that might be the case. So will we see Heischler go into the pit lane, or will it be next lap? I think it's got to be within the next two laps, unless they're watching the live stream and they're just going to do whatever I don't say. I assume they're going to pit either this lap or next lap. That is my final decision, and if they don't pit within the next two laps, then I will admit that I am completely wrong. They go into the pit lane. There you go. As expected, very, very late on, but onto the soft tyre. Make sure that they don't lock up with those old tyres and speed into the pit lane. It will be soft tyres, I reckon, for this car, and we'll see if they can try and finish ahead of Fauzi with the strategy that they've got right now. They are going to be very, very quick. It's not going to be easy to get done. Fauzi goes down the start-finish straight, and they will get a big jump over Heischler, who leaves the pit lane exit now. Heischler's not too far away, and those tyres, fresh softs versus 12 lap old hards, are going to be a world of difference. Those softs are going to warm up very, very quickly. They're going to be good to go to the end. Still dead, but good to go to the end. He's got to be very careful with them. Once he gets past the Ferrari, he can't afford to push the car too much harder, because Frantic, although is going to be a lot slower than Heischler with this strategy situation, they are very far ahead, and I don't know if Heischler will be able to catch that gap, unfortunately, for his sake. DRS here for Heischler, but not in a position to overtake, so an unfortunate catch right there. If they were maybe in a different position, a bit closer, they may have used a bit more battery to try and get the move done, but right now they're just having to wait until the DRS straight behind the hard tyre runner. There's nothing they can do about it. They just have to let it be. They'll get the move done on DRS, and I don't think Fauzi is going to really fight that one. DRS will be used, and there is the move done as Heischler makes their way up the order, and now does try and catch up to Frantic to see if they can maybe, just maybe, make this a P1 in this race. 7.2 seconds, 7.3, it's more or less there at the moment. It will change as we go through the heavier corners, and fastest lap as well is going to be very interesting for Heischler right now. I think that's what he's going to be pushing for on the opening laps. If not this lap, next lap they will be doing so. Frantic is looking to just try and stay ahead. They don't need to worry if they get passed by Heischler, because Heischler is a higher tier driver. They just need to make sure that they finish this race, and they'll be good to go. Frantic leads on lap 27. As Heischler now makes that 6 seconds. So they are very quick, going for the fastest lap at 12.999. Fauzi sitting behind. I say sitting behind. 4.5 seconds already. He is not worrying about that car at all. We've got Pursoon and Zingy on the other hand, who are very close and fighting slightly. Pursoon has a time penalty, actually just going to let Zingy go through. Zingy now makes that a P4 position. Whether these guys will fight on the final few laps of the Grand Prix. They were very even on pace throughout this race for a long time, but since then, Pursoon's dropped back, or Zingy's caught up, or a combination between the two. As Zingy is very loose on the rear end right now, and these guys push their way after having their issues at the start of this race, of course. Now Frantic, he's got some questions to ask himself right here. Does he want to win on track, or does he want to win the race? If he wants to win the race, then let Heischler through. If he wants to win on track, then he's going to have to fight Heischler, but possibly risk losing to the cars behind. Now Fauzi is 6 seconds behind, and that's likely to extend as the softs tyres are absolutely rapid right now. So in theory, he can afford to fight. He would probably have to have track position for a while until the last lap maybe, and then hope that the tyres of Heischler die off and the ERS and DRS can kick in enough. Other than that, maybe just defend, try and keep track position so those tyres do die off and then they can't make that move. Ultimately, it's going to be a very, very difficult defensive kind of attempt if they want to keep that position, I should say. 3.9 seconds is what Heischler now has as they go through the corners. That's where they'll gain the most time on Frantic in the Haas car. Into the hairpin they'll go, and they'll gain even more time right here. On the exit of the hairpin, they make it 3.5 seconds, and as they go into the next couple of corners, they're looking to make it 3.4, even 3.3. So that's the rate that they're catching on this set of new rubber. They go around the final corner to finish lap 28 and start lap 29 for their race. The 3.4 seconds is the gap. It may be possible for Frantic here. It very may be possible. It's going to be incredibly difficult for them to hold on. It's also going to be quite difficult for Heischler to be able to overtake. It's not going to be easy for either driver. Right now, Heischler has the advantage, but they need to catch within the next couple of laps. They have to catch within the next 2-3 laps. Otherwise, those soft tyres will die off, and that hard tyre, despite being 15-lap-old hard tyres, is going to be probably enough to hold on, because those soft tyres, although going to be good to go to the end, are going to be very tough to deal with. Sorry for the trip ups with the commentary there. We'll try our absolute best to make sure that those don't happen again. Zingy and Pursoon are once again very close to one another on track. Of course, this isn't for the lead, but it is going to be a battle that we can look at as we get to the final stages of the Grand Prix. These guys just trying to work together, maybe just have a little bit of a race themselves at this late stage of the Grand Prix. Of course, Pursoon with a time penalty. They have got Fauzi up ahead, who is 10 seconds away, and Terence behind, who is 11 seconds away, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference. Currently looking for the EU drivers. Frantic leads the way. Then we've got Fauzi sitting in P3. We've got Terence in, I say that, Fauzi is sitting in P2 for the current tier drivers. Then we've got Terence, Yerko, Icarus and Simax on right now. So will the Red Bull switch before the end, or will it stay as it is? It looks like it will stay as it is, but time penalties could play a factor a little bit later on. Pursoon lets the Mercedes car go through, and they continue once again for another lap. Lap 30 out of 33, we spend some time with these guys, and now we go back to the top two, who are very, very close. That is a blue flag. Right now, as you can see, that will be Icarus, who is ahead and going to have to give the positions up to the cars in front. That's going to be DRS here for Heischler. That's going to help him massively. I don't know if Frantic got DRS right there. He might not have got the DRS, so an advantage will be gained right there for the McLaren driver, as he doesn't exactly let Heischler go too easy, but Heischler, with that softer compounded tyre, does manage to get the job done compared to 27 lap-old hards. They are absolutely donkey's years old. That is crazy, the age that they've got on that tyre. But that will be them making that move as Heischler, and they'll be good to go. They're going to be able to send it on the brakes and catch up a little bit more. Lap 31 out of 33. They have got 3 laps just under remaining of this Grand Prix to try and catch and overtake Frantic. 1.4 seconds. It's very, very close. Tantalizing. I can't say the word. Incredibly close. There you go. I just about got it done. Terence goes into the pit lane, interestingly, looking to go for another tyre, maybe trying to get the fastest lap. I guess he's confident that he can stay ahead of Jericho here. So, of course, Jericho's got that time penalty as well. He can go into the pit lane and look at getting the fastest lap for the higher tier the current tier drivers. So, this is good, and maybe, just maybe, even get their own fastest lap for the overall tier as well. That's going to be side by side with Pursoon and Zingy as they exit turn 5, and it was all looking very, very close. Also looking very, very close, Heischler has managed to get that DRS range. We want to see if Zingy's going to go for that move or not to the inside line. They will do so as Pursoon lets it happen. He locks the rears and they go off the circuit. Pursoon's going to lose out. Zingy realises what he's done wrong and lets the position go for now. They are racing pretty hard. Also, who's about to race hard is Frantic and Heischler. They have got a blue flag car just up in front, and that is Jericho having to get out of the way. And ERS is looking very interesting. Heischler's got a lot in that car right now, whereas Frantic not so much. There is only a few moments left for this Grand Prix. Will an old set of soft tyres be able to stay ahead of a very old set of hard tyres right now? I think it's going to have to go towards Heischler at this stage. It's side by side in the meantime for the background guys. It is Pursoon and Zingy going through the next few corners towards turn 5. He's going to have the outside line as Zingy. It's very close. He's trying to persuade Pursoon to the inside line and then throw the dummy, and they tried to get it done, but Pursoon goes off the circuit, and that will be that one done. Terence looking for the fastest lap, but we will start the last lap of the Grand Prix with Frantic leading the way. Heischler is going to try and change that situation as he pulls to the inside to defend, uses all the battery they can, but a full battery available for the McLaren. I don't think it's going to be a contest as they power on through. It might be available. There might be an opportunity available for Frantic to get a move on the final DRS straight into turn 10, but it's going to be so difficult to do so. At this stage, I think they really just have to pray that there is a time penalty coming for Heischler, but I don't think it will happen, and I think it will be Heischler taking the win for the F1.5 tier. I don't want to jinx it just about yet. We've got the top 2 fighting, or the next 2 fighting, I should say, as Zingy sends it very hard, isn't able to get there quite so easily on Pursoon. They go up the hill and they will stay as they are, but Zingy's going to be using a little bit of energy and trying to throw an attacking manoeuvre into the next corner, dipping a wheel on the grass. Pursoon goes nice and wide to get the traction, but Zingy still has the job done. Around the outside, they look to try and make it work. We're going to have to go back to this battle though, as Frantic wasn't able to do anything into that final corner, into the final overtaking opportunity, I should say. Heischler is going to come around the final corner to win the F1.5 EU Spanish Grand Prix, but for the current tier drivers, Frantic takes victory and will lead the championship after the first race of the season. Fauzi will take a brilliant P3. It's not what they wanted, but they saw the opportunity and they took it, they relaxed, and they just got those points. We've got Pursoon and Zingy, who are incredibly close all the way to the final moments. Zingy tries to see the inside line, but it's going to be Pursoon going off the circuit, and Zingy will go through. Pursoon had a time penalty anyway. Jericho Willis, Simaxon and Ikaros, of course, lapped. It was a switch round between Simaxon and Ikaros in the end, so a very good job there to Simaxon to get that job done on those very old tyres. Ikaros did an incredible job, actually. Just look at those tyres. They are very difficult, but it's all about Terence. Will they get the fastest lap to make this one a very good job? It won't be a fastest lap overall. It might be a fastest lap, however, for the current tier drivers. This is your EU winner today with Frantic. Driver of the day for Heischler, as it's well deserved for taking that win, going from at the very back, last to first. Heischler takes the win with the fastest lap as well. Frantic, Fauzi, Zingy, Passoon, Terence, Yoko, Willis, Simaxon and Icarus. No one DNF when we go through the race director, just in case. And then we will go through the pit stops as well, as we need to. We will have a quick look to see the current drivers who got the fastest lap. A 14.8 for Frantic, a 14.6 for Fauzi. We've got a 13.7 for Terence. And that will be that. So Terence will score the fastest lap point for the current tier drivers, and also a P3 for the current tier drivers. So a brilliant job there for Terence. Fauzi and Frantic, however, are the top two in the end. We'll be back for the post-race interviews. We'll see you in a bit. Hello everyone, welcome back to the post-race interviews. That was the Spanish Grand Prix. We saw Heischler win for the overall tier, but for the EU drivers, Frantic takes the win. Frantic, that was a pretty good job done in the end. It was a bit of a surprise into the first corner because you weren't the car to lead, but after the line, you were effectively the car to lead for a long time, and you had a few cars behind you, but then later on it kind of changed.
Yeah, very sad hoo-ha, sorry Frantic gang. Man, I tried my best. It was so intense. I mean, I can't complain because Pursuit and Zingy would have been up there as well if it wasn't for the unfortunate events that they had. So I do consider myself pretty lucky, but it's all good again. Yes. But as you guys have seen, if you want to win the race, use the LSI setup made by LSI. Watch the guides on the official LSI YouTube channel and you will find 5/10 a lap. That is League Sports International, LSI in short.
Fair enough. Well said. Thank you very much. Singapore, do you think you could also win for the EU tier if you're racing there?
Sadly, I won't be racing on Saturday, so yeah, I can't participate. But I mean, I'll be driving on Friday. I'll try my best. I'll get my third P5 in a row.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I hope it goes well for you there. I hope you get a bit more than the P5, but if it's a P5, it's still pretty good points. Yeah. So thank you very much, Frantic. Really well done today.
Appreciate you.
And we move on to Heischler. Heischler, that was a pretty good job. Last to first in the end, going for a very, very, very different strategy. You didn't have any of the other higher tier drivers to worry about because they had whatever instance they had. So, yeah, good job for you there.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of me driving the steer was trying something different. I was doubting to either start on the softs or start on the hards and then switch to the other one. In the end, I decided to do on the hards because I thought I could maybe probably stick in DRS with the hards. No matter who was ahead of me, you can easily stick with the medium runners if you're just in the DRS. So it was, that was my plan, and then just go as long as possible. I found out that the softs were still good after 9 laps in quali. So I'm a bit wait. Okay. Yeah, so I just try to go as long as possible on the hards, and as I said before the interview, the hards just overheat rear left. Like always, it's hard to not overheat them. The softs were, I didn't really have that problem. Like I just had enough grip to cope with it. During this hard stint I was doubting if it would work, but like the last 2 laps or something, I saw Frantic stop catching me a lot, and I knew that this was the moment to pit. Yeah, it was 9 laps until the end, and you saw the result. It worked. And I would say maybe this is a threat to use in the future, because I think if it was with other people and I sticked with DRS of, for example, Nifo or Zingy, I would have had like more gain time. So it's an interesting strat that works apparently.
Yeah, I was going to say, doing that strategy, would it help you for different circuits, even going to Singapore, whether you're there or not? Is that a circuit that you think such a strategy would go well at? Starting on a hard tire around Singapore, I'm not sure.
Um, wait, I'm gonna fact check this actually. I'm not sure either. You can. I'm not sure if the softs can make it to the end. How many laps is Singapore?
Is it
Oh,
36?
no. I
Fair
don't
enough.
think I will. I will do that.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, regardless, I hope it goes well for you there. Really well done today. Congratulations on a lovely victory, and we'll see you next time. Well done today.
Thank you.
And we move on to Simaxon. Simaxon, it was a great start to the Grand Prix, of course. You were right in the battle for a while, but unfortunately, just losing it at the S section, turn 7 and 8, and then it just didn't go too well from there. Did you have some bugs in the pit lane that they didn't repair your front wing, am I correct in saying?
No, I'm just stupid and make this
okay.
mistake that I didn't. Yeah.
I see. So, yeah, do you think maybe if that incident didn't happen, you'd have been able to finish P2, maybe even P1?
No, I think P3 would be the best I could have finished. Yeah.
Fair enough, fair
I
enough.
think I picked a wrong setup because my wheel was really slippery in quali and in the race. Almost spinning in every corner.
Uh-huh.
And I think then I spun. Yeah, and when the VSC came out, firstly, I missed the pit entry, so I had to drive another one lap. Then I forgot to turn on the wing repair, so another pit. And then on the softs, I rode it around 8 laps and pitted for the hards to the end.
Fair enough. Well, a lot of experience on different tyres. We may or may not have got that pit lane entry miss on stream, so I do apologise for that one. But you know what? You got that race done. Moving on to the next one in Singapore, is that a circuit that you like, whether you're racing there or not?
I like the old layout, but I think the new one is also good. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Looking forward to that one then, and hope you can get a good result there. Thank you very much. Sorry that it didn't quite work out. Maybe it was a setup fault, as you said, so should be good for next time. Thank you very much so much, son, and we'll see you next time. And we move on to Terence. Terence, that'll be a P3. That'll be a fastest lap as well for the EU drivers. So you've taken a decent amount of points right there. Can you take us through your race?
Yes, actually I...
Oh, you're a little bit quiet.
Oh wait, can you hear?
Yeah, there you go. That's much better.
Okay. I don't think the race and the process, the progress of it is good for me. Is a good news for me because I'm quite slow, and after the first stint, Frantic already have a pistol length already, so it is disappointing. But I think that may be a good start for season long because you know the season is so long. And then I need to find my rhythm again and maybe just try to maximize all the race pace here. You know, qualify is not an advantage for me for the last 2 seasons. And I think it's an honor to be in the green in my first season in LSI. And also I want to mention something is because I don't use the setup suggested by LSI video, so Rentic is faster and faster. So it's a shame that I don't use LSI setup.
Fair enough, fair enough.
So sorry for that.
No, it's yeah, fair enough. Well, maybe more the recent videos that would make sense, but for the Spain setup, it's actually quite an old one, but it's not terrible, so you can still use it. But yeah, it's good to see you up there on the podium. Singapore, is that a circuit that you think you can do well at as well, whether you're racing there or not?
I would race because you know I always attend the race, wish to attend and have the passionate for race.
Definitely.
And also the circuit. I love the circuit because I love to see the war besides my cockpit. So
Uh-huh. Yeah.
so yeah,
What-
just enjoy it and try to maximize my pace
Awesome. Yeah.
in many laps.
It will be a adrenaline rush for sure around there. But thank you very much, Terrence. Really good job today. Congratulations on the podium. And that's a pretty good start to the championship.
Yep.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure. That's been the live stream. My voice is giving up, and as I speak, it's getting worse. We are going to end the live stream there. Thank you very much. I will say again, we will see you on Tuesday and Thursday for more practice lobbies. Have a good one, and bye-bye.